Hi everybody, welcome back. Now it's that time of year where caravans are starting to waken up and people are starting to go out touring for the year ahead. Some of us have been touring throughout the winter. I'd like to say we have been, but we haven't. But there is one thing that happens over winter and certainly in the early part of the season, and that is people like to use their awnings more and more. But the problem is they get quite cold, especially when it turns from day to night. So the obvious solution is to put a small heater in your awning. And the purpose of this video today is going to show you some of the mistakes that Angela and I have made over purchasing heaters for the caravan over the past few years. Now, I don't support heating the great outdoors. It is a waste of resources, but you do want something to take that edge off so that your awning is usable. Certainly keeping it warm all throughout the night, that's not a particularly great idea. Now, over the years, Angela and I have purchased many heaters for various reasons, and we've come up with the final solution that we have now, which I'm going to share with you today so that you don't have to, and you can see what really works and what doesn't work. So this isn't a product endorsement, this isn't a product review, this is simply us sharing with you what our feelings are on the various heaters that we've bought over the years. So without further ado, let's have a look at the first heater. So the first heater we're going to look at today is an oil-filled radiator. The particular one that Angela and I bought was $32.99, and this particular model is a 1500 watt radiator, and that is selectable between 500 watts and 1000 watts. So some of the pros and cons with this radiator. Well, first of all, it's very safe. It's not going to fall over and catch fire. You will burn yourself if you touch it, but it is, safer than many other heaters. The second thing is it's great for ambient heat. If you want to supply background heat, it is absolutely superb for that. That's the reason why we purchased this one. This was for when Tom was sleeping in the awning and we wanted to create some background heat. We thought a radiator ticking over on a low setting throughout the night, just enough to take the edge off, would be perfect. And the other good thing about this radiator is it's perfect if you want to use it over long periods of time. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to keep the cold out of your caravan throughout the winter. Well, one of these would be perfect, set to a very low temperature. It'd be absolutely superb for that. Now, some of the bad things about this is it is quite heavy. It's taken up valuable payload. So unless you carry it in the car, it can be quite a nuisance and certainly takes up valuable space. Now, the other thing about it, as I mentioned, space, well, it is quite large as well. So you need to work out where you're going to store the thing if it's not going to be used. We were okay when we used it because we kept it in the awning pretty much all the time. Now, the final thing, and probably the biggest downside to this particular heater, which encouraged us to replace it, was it's not instant heat. It doesn't heat up straight away. So if you're winter caravanning and you want to get the caravan nice and hot or nice and warm, it just doesn't do that. It's brilliant for supplying gradual heat and it gradually warms up an area, but for instant heat, it's particularly rubbish. And that was the problem we had with it when we were using it in the awning. We just couldn't get enough instant heat out there, so it was pretty useless for us out there. Now, the second heater up for discussion today is the small slimline quartz heater from Quest Leisure. This one is available from $16.99, and this one is 800 watts, and that's 2 lots of 400 watts. The reason why we bought this one, well, first of all, it's very light. It's very small, it can be packed away really easy, and it's very safe. It has a small shut-off switch at the bottom, so that if it tips over, it instantly goes out. And we have had experience of it switching off because the dog managed to knock it over on one occasion and it switched off straight away. Some of the bad things about this one, again, like the radiator, it's not brilliant for instant heat, and in actual fact, we found it completely pointless and useless. We used it in the caravan when we were winter caravanning and we wanted to get instant heat into it. It didn't do that. And the second thing is it never actually warmed up the awning at all. We never took any background coldness off at all. Now, the second point is it's quite fragile. We did actually break one of these. We had one before and it did break, and that was particularly useless, especially if it's camping. It needs to be pretty robust. And the other thing as well, which surprised me somewhat, was the direction of heat. Because it radiates outwards and you get that nice warm glow coming forward from it, you would assume that you'd get heat coming out of it. Well, in actual fact, what it did do was it heated everything right above it. So the direction of heat was quite misgiving, and it never really filled up a room at all. So for that reason, we consigned this particular heater to the loft. Now, the final heater I'm going to discuss today is the flat fan heater from Beldray, and this one was priced at $12.99, and we got this one from B&M. Now, this particular fan heater is a 2 kilowatt. That's 1 kilowatt plus 1 kilowatt. And some of the great things that we like about this one, well, first of all, it's very small, it's very light, it heats up quickly. It's fantastic for heating up rooms. So Caravan, which is cold, it just adds instant heat to it, and it's perfect for the awning. Now, I can only come up with 2 negative points to this particular heater. The first one is this particular model is quite noisy. It's not noisy that you need to shout above it, but it can be quite noisy, certainly compared to the other two, which are dead silent. And the other thing is that it needs space in order to work properly. You can't crowd it, you can't certainly sit in front of it. You need space around it for it to work. So it needs to be well thought out where you're going to place the particular heater. So that's all the heaters that we've bought over the past 3 years. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's great if you're on electric hookup. What if you're not on electric hookup? What can you do then? Well, we had bought a gas heater many moons ago, but it's not something I would recommend. There are 2 reasons for this. First of all, it can be quite a wet heat, so you'll add a lot of moisture into the atmosphere. And the second thing as well is that you do have a risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. So we don't use gas heaters. If we're off grid, it's usually because it's in the middle of summer, so we wouldn't need a heater anyway. So that's just our thoughts on gas heaters for you. So there you go, guys, that is everything from us today. Now, where we purchased these from, the radiator we got from Argos, the quartz heater we got from Go Outdoors, and the fan heater we purchased from B&M. So these are readily available on the high street in shops all around you. I've put links to them down below so you can go and have a look at those on Amazon, for instance. And that's it. That's all that I can give you. Which heater would I recommend for you? It's got to be the fan heater. It's small, it's light, it works really well. It's 2 kilowatts if you've got a lot of power, or you can turn it down to 1 kilowatt, and that's absolutely fantastic. So there you go, guys. That's it from us today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye now.